During the COVID-19 outbreak, many remote-first companies have been able to continue on with very little negative effect on their day-to-day operations. For them, it has just been business as usual. Since some of them have no offices, they were able to continue on without any interruption. For now, the remote work trailblazing is being done by small, nimble technology companies. These companies started out remote and have figured out how to make it work. There is no big ship to turn around, so they just keep on working like normal. For other companies that were forced to adopt new ways of working, many never thought that their worlds would be turned upside down so quickly. Some dabbled in remote work, maybe using it as a perk for certain employees, but didn't have any real policies in place to support it on a larger scale. Some also did not have a contingency plan for handling work if the office went away. Some of these older companies have impressive campuses with services like daycare, dry cleaning, catered meals, salons, meditation gardens, dog-friendly offices. The goal is to remove your worry about day-to-day things and keep you at work longer. This might be a great fit for some people depending on their goals and where they are in life. And at these companies, all communication and collaboration was centered on you being in the office with your colleagues, so working remotely will be especially challenging. These companies have been so focused on making time at work more pleasant, they haven't given much thought to the growing demand for remote work. For these companies, they are in what I call the first phase, which is forced acceptance. They were not planning to offer remote work on such a large scale, but had to do it in order to survive. But some employees are already complaining about burnout. Outlets for letting off steam are limited due to the lockdown. Some people barely left their houses for weeks. They were stuck inside working and watching the news, which just creates more anxiety. The stock market is a roller coaster. There's civil unrest everywhere. Unemployment numbers are expected to hit record highs. It's going to be another volatile election year. Multiple people are working from home and learning from home with no breathing room and no break. And of course, not everybody is equipped with a nice home office. Some people are working from kitchen counters or whatever chair they can find. Since people never went to work or came home from work during the lockdown, it was almost impossible to separate the two. Some even used their home computers while working, so there was never any location or equipment separation. As we discussed, most people really hate their commute, but at least you were able to separate your work day from your home day. That line became much more blurred during the lockdown. But somehow through it all, people made it work and were productive, I think even more productive than some companies could have imagined. However, many of the working hours are spent on video calls and virtual meetings. This does keep the communication up, but it can be as draining as sitting in meetings all day in a regular office. Some companies might stop at this phase, satisfied that they can now offer employees the perks of working from home, mainly no more commute. Remember, commuting is the number one complaint. But where do we go from here? How do we improve working arrangements, reduce worker burnout, and help people stay productive? Welcome our old friend from the last chapter, asynchronous communication. Phase 2 I call asynchronous first, and think of asynchronous by default as less meeting, more reading. So for companies that employ asynchronous by default, strong skills in reading, writing, and empathy are considered essential superpowers. Like we discussed, detractors will argue that asynchronous communication slows things down, and that is a fair statement. However, it also forces disciplined, well-thought-out decision-making. It's also more inclusive since everyone can review the documents, do research, make comments, and ask questions on their own time. Everyone's situation is different, and not everybody is productive during the same times of the day every day. You may have to run errands, go to doctor's appointments, drop off your kids, any number of things. Asynchronous communication allows people to work on their schedules and still be productive. So think of this phase as working whenever is best for you. And more tools are popping up to make this possible. Look for tools such as Twist, Loom, Yak, and Voodle. Keep an eye out for them. The next phase is working wherever, whenever, and that one gets my green box. So if your company has matured enough to default to asynchronous first, does it really matter where and when you work? At this point, your management chain and company are comfortable with remote work and trust the workers to meet their deliverables. Workers are judged by their output, and not time at their desks. So if it's managed correctly, it offers the most freedoms while still maintaining a strong connection to the team and company. The company knows how to keep you engaged while still treating you like a responsible adult who will get your work done without constant supervision. Remember, we spoke in earlier chapters about typically the more remote your experience, the further away you feel from the team or company. Hopefully, if you get into this phase, these issues have been resolved. In this advanced phase, communication, trust, documentation, and empathy are all essential. Just think of the diverse talent pool your company would be able to employ if they weren't so concerned about location and working hours. They'd be able to hire military families, caregivers, retirees, people from other countries and cultures. Diversity is a red-hot topic, and this working model can help companies fill in some of those gaps. As we will discuss in a future chapter, building a global team across time zones can present some special challenges. It depends on the level of communication and team interaction that's expected of the role. Quick example, if your company is looking to expand its support hours, then having team members on the other side of the world might be ideal. However, if the role requires constant communication across time zones and constant inconvenient meeting times, then that might not be a great fit. It will be a while before larger companies are able to get to the work whenever, wherever phase, but the wheels are in motion. Based on some surveys I've seen, a lot of workers are asking for a hybrid arrangement where they work from home 3 days a week, go into the office 2 days a week, something like that. And I think that's a good compromise because this will allow people to reduce their commute a few times a week, allow them to spend some more time at home with their family, and still give them some important time with their team in the office. Now, each company and situation is going to be different, but companies that don't adapt and don't innovate are mercilessly replaced. Just think of companies like AOL, MySpace, BlackBerry. They were once leaders and behemoths, now they're as good as gone. They've been replaced by companies that did innovate. And just like companies need to adapt, workers also need to adapt or they'll be left behind. This is especially true in the tech industry where technology moves at a very rapid pace. Combine that with new models of working such as remote working, and it can be very challenging for everyone to try to keep up with the pace of progress. It's clear that the remote working experience at each company is going to be different. If I may plug a project of mine, I recently launched Scorecard.com to capture remote-friendly companies and the type of remote work experience they're offering. Think of it as a glass door where the remote work experience is ranked by each company. And I think this will become important as more companies offer some type of flexible working arrangement. So if a company says that they are remote-friendly or remote-first, there is a little more to it than that. There's about a dozen or so key criteria that I capture for each remote-friendly company on remotescorecard.com. So if you're considering taking a remote role at a company, take a look on that site to see how the remote work experience ranks.